Why is it that Venezuelans are dancing in the streets since the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro?
Because it's a day of justice. Maduro destroyed our country, and we're very happy about what the United States did. I mean, this is historic. The Maduro regime thought Trump was bluffing, and then he proved them wrong. Now they're scared, because I can assure you, they don't know who the rat is inside the regime.
What would your message be to those young Americans who aspire to be and to vote for socialists here at home? And welcome back to The Brief. We are joined today by Daniel Di Martino. Daniel is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and a Venezuelan political refugee. Daniel, there's a lot to talk about, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, very happy to be here.
So Daniel, you wrote a really interesting op-ed in the Daily Wire. Unfortunately, it's behind a paywall. So please educate myself and educate our viewers. Why is it that Venezuelans are dancing in the streets since the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro?
Well, because it's a day of justice. Maduro destroyed our country. The entire reason we left our country, the largest refugee crisis in the planet, 9 million of us, it's because Maduro destroyed our country by taking our businesses through socialist policies, of course, and really through political repression as well, corruption. And we're very happy about what the United States did. We're very grateful, and we're hopeful that this will lead to a transition towards a free country, a pro-American ally.
So you would say the general mood of most Venezuelans, contrary to, let's say, the far left that have been protesting in the streets of New York or LA, you would say the mood is hopeful, it's optimistic, it's thankful and appreciative of President Trump's actions.
Yes. I was at the celebration in the courthouse where Maduro was arraigned yesterday. And the environment there was Venezuelans celebrating, many non-Venezuelans celebrating too. Very happy to have them there with us. And then we had some far-left protesters with signs that said, "Free Nicolás Maduro, free President Maduro." These people know nothing about Venezuela, and they're out there supporting a drug dealer. It really makes no sense. They wouldn't do that for other people who get arrested. Did they go protest against the capture of El Chapo Guzman? I don't understand. So Venezuelans are very grateful and hopeful, but inside Venezuela, they're still scared because the regime is still in power.
So let's talk about President Trump's actions specifically. We're not here to debate the political and cultural realities within Venezuela. We know that more than 90% of the population lives in poverty. We know that at least 20% of all the cocaine trafficked into the United States is coming from Venezuela. We know that President Maduro is a psyop of the drug cartel. What we're trying to focus on is the political consequences of it. So President Trump ran on a campaign against foreign interventionism. He ran a campaign against regime change. How would you respond to the political analysts and the social activists who say that President Trump is actually bringing us back into a forever war? And they're comparing the Venezuelan situation to that of Iraq or Afghanistan. What would your response be to those detractors?
Well, first, I think a lot of people put into President Trump's mouth words that he did not say. President Trump ran on America first, not on we are not going to touch any other country in the world when it's in our interest. That is made up. And President Trump is pursuing the interest of the United States, which is to stop drug trafficking, stop illegal immigration, and increase oil production so that we pay less at the gas pump. That sounds pretty much in the interest of the United States, and that's what's happening in Venezuela. I think the people will support President Trump's action because of that.
So just so I understand, when people talk about Iraq or Afghanistan, you're saying, no, this is probably more akin to, let's say, something like 1989, where under former President George H.W. Bush, U.S. forces launched a surprise invasion of Panama, of course. They accused the Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega of conspiring with drug traffickers, very similar to Nicolás Maduro, to funnel cocaine into America. Coincidentally, this actually took place 36 years to the day of the capture of Nicolás Maduro. But just so I understand, you're saying that America first does not mean America alone, and this very much actually is in the interest of American foreign policy.
That's right. And, people compare Iraq to Venezuela. Venezuela is not a Muslim country. Let's begin with that. Venezuela has no ethnic or religious strife, not even language divisions, right? Which all of these other countries where they have always been in civil war or problems, genocides, it's always been because of that. Venezuela is an overwhelmingly Christian nation, mostly Catholic, that is simply looking for freedom that is under a Marxist regime. If anything, Venezuela is very similar to Eastern Europe under Soviet occupation. It's very similar to Panama under Noriega, but mostly, the rebound of Venezuela is going to look much more like Poland than Iraq.
Right. So I do have to ask then, because you're reminding me of, unfortunately, I would say bizarre conspiracy coming from the dark corners of the internet, that really this was in service of what's now referred to as global homo, that Nicolás Maduro is a social conservative who bans gay marriage, who bans gender reassignments to children.
We're not going to go kill Nicolás Maduro because we don't like the way he's treating his people. It's possible we're mad that he doesn't allow gay marriage. That is a distinct possibility, but no one will say that out loud. Not defending the regime, just saying. And by the way, the U.S.-backed opposition leader who would take Maduro's place if he were taken out is, of course, pretty eager to get gay marriage in Venezuela. So to those of you who thought this whole project was globo homo, not crazy.
How would you respond to the accusations that President Trump is really doing this as part of a nefarious global homo conspiracy?
Venezuela, this issue has nothing to do with gay marriage. Honestly, we couldn't care less. You know what I care about? I care about the starving children. I care about the people without medicine. I care about the millions of refugees, the largest refugee crisis in the planet, the largest peacetime refugee crisis in human history, 9 million people. I really care about that. We care about capitalism. We care about oil investments. If you care about America first, you shouldn't give a crap about gay marriage in Venezuela. I can assure you, personally, I would oppose it, okay? If you're asking me my opinion, yeah, I don't want that. Now, would I prefer that over, starving children and millions of refugees? That seems like kind of obvious. What I'll say is Maduro is not a conservative. Maduro supported and funded Black Lives Matter. He has a picture with the Black Lives Matter founders in 2015. Maduro supports everything that destabilizes the United States. He has gays and trans councils and supports all the LGBT stuff in Venezuela. So do you really think that a communist is going to be a social conservative? And do you really think that the Venezuelan people that are overwhelmingly Christians are going to support a regime that persecutes the church? Because these people who say what you mentioned, my understanding is that they're very worried about religious persecution. Have they heard about all the nuns and priests whose bones have been broken by beatings of the National Guard in Venezuela? I know some of those nuns and priests.
So I want to go back then to what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed as early as Saturday while the operation was ongoing. He warned, and I want to get this right, of a, quote, dangerous precedent. He called for, quote, full respect by all of international law. We have heard this argument both on the right and on the left that what President Trump and the administration has done in the capturing of President Maduro is actually in violation of international law. So how would you respond to those characterizations that this is in violation of international law? And then what exactly is the relevance of international law within the greater context of geopolitics in the 21st century?
Yeah, I don't care about international law. And international law does not apply in the United States. Only the U.S. Constitution applies, unless there's a treaty signed and ratified by the U.S. Senate. So please, I asked all those people to point to me to which treaty that the United States has ratified is this in violation of. Number two, you know what I care about? I care about justice. I care about freedom. I care about peace. I care about human life. These are timeless universal principles, okay? And ending the Maduro regime and bringing freedom to Venezuelans is supported by Venezuelans, is supported by the U.S. government. So why do we need the consent of Antonio Guterres? I don't know if you've seen the meme where there's like the Trump versus the Venezuelans, and Trump says, yes, I want to overthrow Maduro. The Venezuelans, yes, please overthrow Maduro. And then comes the Democrats and the international world. No, she's not interested. Actually, we are interested. That is what I would say about that.
On the topic then of ineffective policymakers, let's talk about Mehdi Hassan. I want to read you a tweet from Mehdi Hassan of formerly Al Jazeera, now Zateo. He said as follows, quote, if Xi Jinping of the Chinese Communist Party invaded Taiwan right now and toppled the president there, On what grounds would the United States object or have any credibility to say anything? Now, leaving aside the fact that Taiwan democratically elected their policymaker, whereas Nicolás Maduro is an unelected, illegitimate president, what would your response be to people like Mehdi Hassan who are saying that clearly the United States does not have any credibility or legitimacy anymore to talk about norms of international governance?
This is actually very simple. The left simply ignores that there is such a thing as good versus evil. It is good if we were to bring freedom to North Korea. Now, there are logistical reasons why we can't, nuclear weapons, of course. But sovereignty means nothing without freedom. And the reason it would be bad if the CCP invaded Taiwan is that the CCP is evil and Taiwan is good. The reason it's good that Trump captured Maduro is that Trump and the United States are good and Maduro is evil. And really, that's how we can judge things. There is such a thing as good versus bad. And I think that they have all this moral relativist view that we need to do something that would be good in the eyes of others. The CCP hates us. We are not establishing a precedent for anything because if they're going to invade Taiwan, they were going to do it regardless. And if anything, this action actually deters them because it shows that President Trump has the guts to defend the interest of the United States.
Right. And again, President Trump supporters would say, and I think you've made this point earlier, this is not without cause. He campaigned on the promise of peace through strength. I want to get back to the geopolitical practicalities of this move. Help me understand something. Delcy Rodriguez, up until a few days ago, was the vice president of Venezuela. This is someone who is heavily associated with Nicolás Maduro and his regime. She is now the president. How does the United States and the Trump administration see a transitional government taking place, if at all, if Maduro's establishment is still leading? What is the greater plan here as it pertains to Rodriguez and those within the Maduro regime who are still in power?
So I don't have any privileged information, but what I can tell you is that based on the public statements of the Secretary of State, of President Trump, and really just what's in the interest of the United States, if the plan is to bring in the American oil companies, is to stop drug trafficking, is to stop, emigration from Venezuela, then the only way is to achieve a transition, which they've said they want. That transition must be out of all the people in power in Venezuela now towards a democratically elected government that supports American capitalism. The opposition in Venezuela supports American capitalism. If you hold elections or you give power to the people already elected, they will support the United States and privatization. The question is the logistics of that transition. The administration now has a chance because the Maduro regime thought Trump was bluffing. They didn't think he was going to do this. And then he proved them wrong. Now they're scared. They're so scared, Shabbos, that they had a shootout last night in the presidential palace with their own drone, thinking that it was the United States. And at least that's the story they're saying. It could be that they're fighting between themselves because I can assure you they don't know who the rat is inside the regime. Because how do you think we captured Maduro? Do you think we don't have people on the inside? Obviously, they are all worried of each other right now. They're paranoid. And that is fantastic. President Trump now can give them the chance, and I can assure you that Marco Rubio is doing that in his conversations. Take all the money you've stolen, Delcy Rodriguez, Jorge Rodriguez, Diosdado Cabello, Vladimir Padrino. Take everything you have and go live an easy life in Doha or in Moscow or in Tehran or whichever country we can negotiate that will welcome you. Wire transfer, gold shipments, whatever you want. And guarantee a peaceful transfer of power towards democratically elected authorities that America supports.
So this paranoia that you were describing, it's an internal paranoia within the Venezuelan establishment. I want to focus more on the regional consequences. You have countries like Cuba, which President Trump has threatened, countries like Mexico that President Trump has threatened as it pertains to their involvement and associations with drug cartels. What are the greater consequences within the region of those countries now that Maduro has fallen? Do you see similar regime changes across the region?
Look, if the Maduro regime in Venezuela falls, the house of cards of the narco-terrorists and communists in the entire Western Hemisphere, and even in other countries, I'm going to tell you, is going to fall apart. Cuba depends on the Venezuelan oil, number one. a free Venezuelan government would actually militarily support the freedom for Cuba. I can assure you that. The opposition leader has even said it explicitly. Nicaragua also depends on them. If we cut off the drug trade, a lot of that money is going to reduce. That's going to save lives, of course. But the Colombian president depends on Maduro. He got elected because of his campaign finance. And more importantly than that, we're going to uncover so much corruption that Maduro and Chavez before him have done for 27 years supporting foreign politicians, that all those people are going to lose their positions in power in the next election in their country. And we're going to see a wave of pro-American governments. It's going to be like the Panama Papers times 100 of all the things we're going to uncover, perhaps even people in the United States who have collaborated with Maduro.
So let's focus on Maduro one last time as it pertains to the legalities and the technicalities. Maduro obviously pled not guilty during his arraignment hearing. Are you concerned at all that the Southern District of New York could actually find Maduro not guilty? Do you think this indictment and this trial will be a shoo-in? What happens next?
That is a very good question. So obviously Maduro is guilty, and he's guilty of many things he's not charged with, because we can't charge him, unfortunately, is my understanding, at least now, with human rights violations in Venezuela, for example. Though I wish we could change some of those laws so that we can charge him, because he should pay for those crimes too. So there's two questions here. They might move him to Miami. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, already said they're bringing state charges. I'm very happy to hear that Ron DeSantis is doing that, because that guarantees that he's going to be live in prison. So don't worry, Maduro is going to be in prison. He's not going to go free. Number two, he has a very good lawyer. He's the lawyer of Julian Assange. That's true. I think that the Department of Justice needs to ensure that the funds that pay his lawyer are legitimate. And they have the authority to do that. And that would cut off all his money. So this evil lawyer would have to do it pro bono. And you know what? If we take some money from a lawyer that is defending evil people, I'm happy with that too. But I am not concerned that he will go free. He will either be moved to a different district, new crimes will be... We need to throw the book at these people. These are evil people.
From your mouth to God's ears, let me ask you just a personal question. You've been vocal about your friend who's been tortured in prison. You are, of course, a Venezuelan refugee yourself. What comes next to people like your friend, or perhaps more personally, what comes next for someone like you? If you were to go back to Venezuela today, what would that look like?
No, if I go back today, they arrest me. They just put out an arrest order for anybody who supports and celebrated the intervention of Trump and the U.S. in Venezuela. Guilty as charged, of course, but that's 10 to 30 years in prison. They're checking people's phones in the highways. They're stopping cars and seeing if you supported what Trump did. And if you do, they arrest you. That is what's happening right now. My friend that you mentioned, her name is Maria Oropesa. She's been 18 months in a torture center that President Trump actually earlier today said that it's going to close soon. So from his mouth to Delcy Rodriguez's ears, let's see if she obeys the order or she needs, more force against her. Maria is also a friend of our mutual friend, Franklin. We actually all met at the same time together in the same place, Maria, Franklin, and I. And then Maria had the guts to say, I want to go back to Venezuela because I want to liberate the country. And she went back. She took the next plane. She could have stayed. She could have gotten asylum. Clearly, given that she is in prison, she deserved it. She became the leader of the opposition party in her state. And she observed the election fraud, and then they kidnapped her from her home at night. And now she's in a torture center in the capital, very far from where her mom lives. So she's a really good girl, and I hope she's free soon.
Let me ask you one last question. You had mentioned earlier the feelings of hope and optimism that Venezuelans, especially Venezuelans in the diaspora, have for the future of their country. I do want to ask, though, as it pertains to the interim, if you were to go back to Venezuela today, you would be arrested. You have friends who've been arrested and detained. What would you say to the people in America, particularly on the left, who believe in socialism, who believe in democratic socialism, and they're cheering on someone like Maduro, and they believe America hands off what's happening there? What would your message be to those young Americans who aspire to be and to vote for socialists here at home?
Ask a Venezuelan. That's the message. Ask your nearest Venezuelan. Doesn't have to be me. You can disregard my opinion. Ask anybody else. I can assure you they will tell you the same thing I told you with their own words. We all have the same stories, even though we don't know each other. And that is because the facts that we're speaking to are just the facts objectively. And so I think people need to do a check on themselves and their opinions. If they're supporting a guy whose own people dislike him, maybe they're wrong. Maybe Trump finally did one good thing. And you don't have to like Donald Trump to support what he did. Venezuelans support it. So maybe, just be more humble and understand that even people you don't like can do good things from time to time.
Daniel, well said. This has been a really fascinating conversation. I want to thank you not just for your time today, but really everything you've been doing for the people of Venezuela, for the people of the United States. We really do appreciate it, and we hope that you can return to Venezuela in a free, democratic country very, very speedily.
Thank you, Shabbos.
Well, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or if you want to see a particular topic addressed, make sure to put it down in the comments and feel free to keep the conversation going through all of your questions or yellings or rants. Find me on social media. Just type in Shabbos Kestenbaum. You're not going to find many other Shabbos Kestenbaums, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you all very soon.